All right, thank you for taking the time out of your busy schedules to join us today. This webinar is called Mysteries of the Library Revealed, ScholarWorks. And there are two of us presenting tonight. My name is Tracy Ave Hector, and I'm a reference librarian at Walden. And here with me is Mackenzie Salisbury. And aside from having the absolute coolest name in the library, she's also Walden's digital scholarship librarian. So both of us are going to be taking turns presenting the material. Now, just for a little bit of housekeeping, especially for those of you who may be attending a library webinar for the first time, as attendees, you can click on the orange arrow to expand out the toolbox and access some of those behind-the-scenes features. One of the features is the handout section, for example, and we put the slide deck for the webinar right in there. And below that, you'll see the questions feature, which is, it acts sort of like a chat box. We're going to address your questions towards the end, but we want you to type those questions in there as you think of them. We do have a large number of registrants, so for any questions that we happen not to get to, or for any non-ScholarWorks questions that you might have, just please use our Ask Librarian service to make sure that any questions that you have get answered, and that's linked at the top of the library homepage. We also have the closed captioning link in that box. So closed captioning is available right now at the URL shown here on the screen, and the recording link for the webinar will be emailed within the next few days. Okay, so while today's webinar is all about ScholarWorks, some of you may not realize that the Mysteries of the Library Revealed is actually an ongoing webinar series. So on the third Monday of every month at 8:30 p.m. Eastern, just like tonight, the library staff present a webinar on different topics. So for example, while today's focuses on ScholarWorks, you can check out next month's webinar to get a library tour, a virtual tour of our collections and services. So with that, let us have Mackenzie tell you just what we hope to accomplish with today's session.
Hi, everyone. So today what we really want to focus on is helping you all understand what ScholarWorks is, to know which resource types might be found in or can be submitted to ScholarWorks, and then also to know how to search ScholarWorks. So we're really hoping that you'll understand kind of all of the important facets of this this tool. So let's jump right in, and on the next slide we'll talk a little bit about what ScholarWorks is. So ScholarWorks is Walden University's open access digital repository. Open access repositories allow your work to be accessed by many more researchers across the world without cost. So this means that it is all the materials that are on there are publicly available. There's no password or sign-in to all the scholarly and creative output that the people at Walden create, and we do not collect any kind of royalties. So it's designed really to work with Google and other search engines to really increase discoverability of these publications. And one of the things I like to kind of highlight is I often am contacted by outside researchers that are looking to connect with the authors of the works in ScholarWorks to use in their own research. So I think it's a really good testament to just how far the reach goes. So on the next slide, I also wanted to talk a little bit about digital commons. So the platform that we use is part of Digital Commons, and it is one of many other softwares, I guess, out there. But what Digital Commons Network is it's a platform that brings together free full-text scholarly articles from hundreds of universities and colleges worldwide. It's curated by university librarians and their institutions, and the network includes a growing collection of peer-reviewed journal articles, book chapters, dissertations, working papers, conference proceedings, and the original scholarly work. So this is just a little graph that pops up when you go to network.bpress.com. And so if you're interested to see at kind of the other institutions and other research that's being done within this network, I think being part of the Digital Commons Network is one of the strongest aspects of ScholarWorks, in that it really situates the research that's being done at Walden within a much larger research community. So on the next slide, let's talk a little bit about the types of resources, and that the Digital Commons kind of gave away some of it, but the the ScholarWorks stakeholders define scholarship as original or creative works generated at Walden. And so what we're really interested in are works that make that are making an effort to generate new knowledge, conserve past knowledge, and traditions of discipline and fields of study, to transform knowledge by making connections among and between ideas to further knowledge and improve human and social conditions. So as you might have noticed or have been aware, social change is something that's really important to the Walden community, and I think ScholarWorks is a really good attempt at furthering that social change. So the materials in ScholarWorks can take many forms. Walden faculty and staff authored articles, presentations, conference materials, book reviews, conference posters, webinars, and other multimedia. Almost all of these items are currently in ScholarWorks, so as you take a look around, you'll be able to see just the different kinds of materials that are in there. And then we also are currently uploading all of Walden doctoral student theses or dissertations. So if you graduated anytime in the last 4 years, your work has been updated and uploaded to ScholarWorks, and so it's really doing a great job of capturing the scholarly materials that our students are producing before they kind of go out into the world, which is great. And then we also have, I say 6 with an asterisk, open access peer-reviewed journals. We actually currently only have 5, but the last one is about to drop any day now. So if you go back even a couple of days from now, you might see the 6th. And we'll talk a little bit about the peer-reviewed journals later, but they're a really great tool that I think only adds to kind of the robustness of ScholarWorks. So at this point, I think Tracy's going to take over and talk a little bit about the different categories.
Yes, and wow, that's really good news. I didn't know about the 6th one, so that's really exciting. So this is the ScholarWorks homepage, and one of the most useful features on the ScholarWorks page is the Browse section that I highlighted here in red on the left. This section houses some of the popular categories that you can browse according to your program, your research topic, or your other interests. So the first one is collections, and clicking on collections would give you options like colleges and schools, subject collections, publications by Walden journals and departments, but you can see the plus signs, all of these can be expanded. So if we clicked on colleges and schools, for example, it would really break it down. So you can choose your program. In this screenshot, we've expanded the College of Social and Behavioral Sciences so that we can then browse work specific to, say, the Public Policy and Administration program. So that's really neat. The next one, journals. How many of you knew before Mackenzie told you about that Walden publishes several journals of its own, and they're peer-reviewed journals at that. So, you know, especially with the 6th one coming out, I'm excited to hear about that. Super cool, definitely worth exploring. The next one, dissertations. This is a really popular category too, and it also has sections for award-winning dissertations. So those of you who might be in or approaching the capstone part of your program, you might want to explore those Walden student works that were deemed exceptional. So this would be a great place to kind of look and see what other students have done. Next, the authors section just lists all authors alphabetically, so you can find a specific student or author. And finally, the disciplines category lets you browse by all authors or works in an overall discipline. So for example, business or education. But you can see that these also branch out into subdisciplines that fall within each of those umbrella fields. Okay, so it's really time to head over to the Real Deal for some demonstrations. The ScholarWorks web address it's pretty straightforward. You know, just like the library is library.waldenu.edu, the easiest way to get there. ScholarWorks is scholarworks.waldenu.edu. But there are also a few ways to get to ScholarWorks other ways from the library website that we wanted to show you. So I'll go ahead and get out of my PowerPoint for a minute and head over to I'm going to go to the Walden Library homepage. Let me replace this with library. I really want to show you how to get in there. We're at the ScholarWorks. So now we're at the library homepage. And one way to get to ScholarWorks from here is just to scroll all the way down to the bottom of the page. And you'll see that the ScholarWorks right here, it's really just one of many different departments and services that are linked within this space. So we could click here and get right to ScholarWorks. But there are other ways of getting to ScholarWorks from the library homepage. So for example, the More Resources button, this button that's towards the center of the page, we can click here or click on the Start Your Research button at the top of the page. Both of these take you to the same place. So we can really click on either one of these. And either link that you click on will take you to the same page that has the same resources that are listed. And you'll see ScholarWorks in this box in the upper left section of the page. So we'll just click right there to get to ScholarWorks. Okay, so here is the ScholarWorks homepage, and you'll notice that there's a search box in the upper left, so we can use this to conduct a simple search right away. So let's just say that my topic was group therapy. And just like with databases, we can use an asterisk to capture different variations on a root word or letters. So I'm going to go ahead and use that. So typing it in this way, it's going to look for group therapy, group therapists, group therapeutic, and so on. And notice that there's a drop down below the box that says in this repository. If we were to leave it at in this repository, it'll just search for Walden ScholarWorks, just that collection. But you could also choose to include other colleges and agencies that might use the same platform. This is what Mackenzie was talking about earlier. But let's say maybe because you're a Walden student, you want to see the works of other Walden students, we'll leave it at in this repository and click on search. Now on the results page, you may notice some link outs to external resources, but you can see here that the majority will actually be PDFs that we could access right from this page. So I'm going to go ahead and open in a new tab. You see I can access this right away. And this is going to be the full text just from going to that download option that's available. But we can also click on one of the titles for a little bit more detail. Okay, so clicking on a title will show you just a little bit more detail on that result. So we can see here that this was for a PhD degree in 2016 in the School of Education. So this is something, remember this information it will probably be linked on that search results page on the left. So we may be able to get to see those that have education as a primary field and that sort of thing. You can read the abstract, and there's going to be the download option on this page too. So back on the search results page, you'll also notice that there are options on the left, different ones for further refining your results. So we could narrow by discipline, keyword, publication date, and a few others. So that's what a basic search looks like. But let's do a brand new search for our next example. So to do this, we'll click on ScholarWorks in the upper right, which brings you right back to the home page. This time, instead of using the basic search box, let's click on the advanced search link that's right beneath that so that we can do an advanced search, gives us a few more search options. Okay, so we're on the advanced search page, and notice that under all fields, there's actually several options. So for example, we could choose advisor and type the name Brown just to see results where a student had Dr. Brown as their advisor. So there are different things that you can do, a lot of neat things that you can do from the advanced search page. In this case, though, let's say that I wanted stuff on staffing in nursing homes. So we'll do an exact phrase search for nursing home by putting it in quotation marks, just like we do in the databases. And don't underestimate those quotes, because if we left out the quotes for nursing homes, we'd also have to contend with a ton of results on home health nursing. So we'll do nursing home. Okay, what I'm going to do is put or palliative. So we'll do nursing home or palliative, and this is, my controls are covering up part of the page, so that's why I'm clicking a lot over here. And we're going to click on this green plus sign icon to add another search row, which you can do to further refine your search. And for this one, we're going to go ahead and put staffing. We could limit it further if we wanted to just look at those things that came out in the last 2 years. We're going to leave it at that and click on search. Okay, so just like before, the search results page will have several options on the left for further refining your search results. So we could narrow by any of these to see those results that were more relevant or more in line with your requirements, like the year of publication and so on. But remember that using these options will really narrow down your results. And of course, in some cases, that will be very well worth it. So say, for example, if your primary focus was on nursing leadership and administration, for example, you might click on leadership in the upper left right here under keyword and just see those results with that specific subject term attached. So very robust results. Let's see how we are on time. Okay, and just really quickly, let me go back to ScholarWorks, and I just want to point out that under disciplines, this is something we talked about with the PowerPoint. I just wanted to show you under disciplines that you can really drill down. We talked about the subdisciplines, and you can see the number of works. You can see the number of works total, number of authors, of course, but let's say if you wanted to go into subdisciplines under business, you were interested in marketing. Here we go. Okay, so if you're interested in marketing, you see that there are a lot of subdisciplines just under that one um, main field of business. So we can go into advertising and promotion management, for example, and see all the works of interest there. So a really, really neat way to browse by your field. Okay, so from here, yep, we're going to head on over to Mackenzie.
Hi, everyone. Thanks again for walking us through searching. Tracy, that was great. So the first thing about ScholarWorks that's going to be most important for people who want to use it often next to searching is going to be for you all to sign up for a ScholarWorks account. So in order to do that, you're just going to go to scholarworks.waldenu.edu as we just were. And in the top right-hand corner, you'll see a My Account link. You're just going to click on that, and it's going to bring you to a login page. The login page will look like you're supposed to have an email and password already, but of course you don't. So if this is your first time, you're going to want to click on that don't have an account ? Sign up link. That's just underneath that forgot your password link. So if you go ahead and click on that, it'll bring you to a form where it'll ask you to just fill out a couple of things. Now, you don't have to use your Walden email address, but we highly recommend that you do. It's one of those things that's just easier for everyone in the long run. If you do end up using a non-Walden email, make sure that you have access to it, because when you go through this create your account, it is going to generate one of those confirmation emails. So you'll need to go into your email and click a link just to confirm your account. But once that happens, you're going to be able to access something called the author's dashboard, which will allow you to set up some exciting features like research alerts that allow you to kind of do saved searches. So if the search that Tracy was just doing was interesting to you, you could set up a research alert so that anytime something new was posted that would have come up in the search results, you'll get a little email about it, which is great. And then also if you're going to be posting things to ScholarWorks, it also will send you some interesting details like readership report, which is how many times an item has been downloaded. So all those things are really great and an important part of signing up for ScholarWorks. So now let's talk a little bit about the submission and publication process, which is on the next page. So submission and publication processes. So it's important to know that we really are looking for work that was created while you were at Walden. So submissions from faculty, staff, and alumni. Mostly we want you to consider what collection makes sense for your work. So as Tracy talked a little bit about at the beginning, there's a number of different kinds of collections. Typically, faculty or alumni will put their stuff into collections that are from their college or school. You also want to make sure to check your copyright to see if if it has been previously published, that you retain the copyright information. And then also when you post to ScholarWorks, typically your publication will be accepted within 2 weeks of submission. Now there's an asterisk mark in that too, because that can be different depending on the collection that you're posting to. The other thing that happens automatically is student dissertations, which we talked about earlier. Those are actually automatically uploaded. So if you're a student or if you're talking to students about ScholarWorks, it's posted automatically 6 to 10 weeks after they submit to ProQuest, which is part of their graduation process. So they actually don't have to do anything else after that. It automatically comes to me and I kind of fiddle with it on the back end and then publish it 6 to 10 weeks later. So that's kind of the first aspect. And on the next slide, we'll talk a little bit more about Walden journals because they are a little bit different. So if you're looking to publish work that you are currently working on, the Walden University journals are a really great option. They are peer-reviewed, so that entire process still applies, meaning that it is a blind process. Each journal really requires different things, so you're going to want to check each journal website for details, but generally speaking, they're looking for articles that fit within kind of the larger themes of each journal. So Journal of Social Change, for instance, is going to be looking for articles about making those larger social movements or research on kind of the social change that's happening. And so these are all things to consider when you're going to publish. And again, because the publication process is pretty rigorous, the time to acceptance and then posting is going to vary within each journal. But if you have questions about that, you can always, of course, contact the editors of each journal as well. And all of that information is on the homepage of each journal. So I think that is all we have for journals. For any other information, you can always go to the ScholarWorks homepage. There's an FAQ page. There's a link on the kind of top right banner. The other thing that I wanted to point out that I had kind of forgotten to talk about earlier is when you go to the live page, you'll see this map, this readership map, and pins will be dropped as you kind of linger there. And what that is it's showing basically from all over the world via the IP address where people are reading what kind of research. So that's an important thing to check out. It's always really fun to see just how far of reach that ScholarWorks gets. So it's a fun kind of tool that will pop up when you visit. And if there are other questions, I think we're ready to take questions from you all, or if there are questions we can't get to today, you can always send them to the Ask a Librarian link. Tracy, I don't know if we have any. Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm going to open the questions pane now and see. It's so tiny. I'm going to make sure I can read your questions. Okay, one question, where do we find ScholarWorks? Is it in the Walden Library link from the homepage? Let me go ahead and get out of the PowerPoint so I can show you from the library homepage. If you're on the library homepage, you can get to ScholarWorks. There is a link. As you navigate through different pages in the library, there's when it's still on the Walden page, it'll usually have this kind of footer part of the page. You can get to ScholarWorks from there, or you can click on Start Your Research, or excuse me, the More Resources button. But both of these go to the same page, and if you click on that, you can get to ScholarWorks that way. Okay, another question. Okay, I'm just taking my first class, but where do we find the ScholarWorks page? Okay, so hopefully this helps you to know where to get to it. Remember, you can just go to scholarworks.waldenu.edu also. Okay, are the popular categories available on Walden website free of charge? So Mackenzie talked about a little bit about no royalties, no cost, right, Mackenzie?
Yeah, so open access really means that anyone in the entire world who has access to the internet is going to have access to this repository. So you don't need to have any kind of password. You don't need to enter any kind of like Walden credentials. It's really open to anyone and it's totally free of charge. And with that, we also don't collect any kind of royalties based on how many people view something. So it's a really great open resource for everyone.
Okay, another question, is there a repository within ScholarWorks for peer-reviewed journals publications? So there is that journals section that Mackenzie and I talked about earlier. I'm not sure if that would answer your question, but you can get to the Walden journals that are in there, the peer-reviewed. So there is a repository for that collection.
Yeah, and I would also say that if outside of the dissertations, which currently makes up the majority of our the research located in ScholarWorks, I will say that when you click on any of the articles, you should be able to see where the article or research was originally published. We do our best to include only peer-reviewed materials, but sometimes it depends on the research itself. So for instance, we have webinars and posters, which are typically not peer-reviewed. So it kind of varies, but if you're only looking for peer-reviewed materials, the open access journals are going to be your best bet.
Okay, and I think this might be the last ScholarWorks question so far. Would you recommend ScholarWorks for looking for items for annotated bibliographies? It really depends when you're talking about requirements for a course assignment or discussion, when you're talking about whether or not it's something from ScholarWorks would be acceptable. It would really depend on the resource type that is acceptable for that assignment or by that instructor for whatever it is you're compiling resources for. So, you know, the things in ScholarWorks would be considered scholarly, but just as an example, dissertations are scholarly, but they're considered scholarly, but they're not considered to be peer reviewed. So, you know, those same considerations would apply. It really just depends on the resource type that you need. And if you have something you're not sure of, you can always ask a librarian.
Yeah, and I would also, following up on that, dissertations are technically they're kind of in a weird gray area of the publishing world because they're not published works in the same way that an article in kind of a major journal is published, but they are a
Right.
considerable amount of work. And so I would say dissertations are great because they also tend to be really specific. And a lot of times what I tell students to do is reading through dissertations can be helpful, but sometimes what's even more helpful is the references that are in the dissertation. Excuse me. So if you're looking at a dissertation and you think, oh, this is really useful, kind of pointing out which specific sections are interesting and finding the references that those students themselves used, which are often in peer-reviewed or published materials can be another way to get around it.
And a couple of other questions. I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording.